Hey everyone, welcome to the Be Insightful in Technology podcast. I'm your host, Shakira Johnston, and I'm here with Renee Wilson. We're going to get into the podcast and talk a lot about what she does, who she is, and
Mhm.
go through her passions and a couple other things that you guys may be surprised about. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. Renee, let's talk about it. So, who are you? What do you do? And if you have any social medias, where can people find you? Let's get that part out.
Sure, sure. So I'm Renee Days Wilson. I work as a customer management strategist. I provide personalized digital experiences that help businesses meet their customer expectations, particularly in building brand loyalty and getting customer enthusiastic about their business.
So, with that,
Mhm.
how did you get into that? Because I want to talk more about your journey. I want
Sure,
to talk about
sure.
the layers that it took to get there.
Absolutely. I'm always been a person who's open to experiences and going, I say yes to a lot of things, right? And so it was really one of those situations of where I was in life. I left corporate because I was pretty despondent with it. I was a hotshot thinker, and I said, "Hey, we waste a lot of downtime. Those water cooler experiences. No one in 9 to 5 really, at least in my where I was working at, wasn't doing a 9 to 5." And I just got really bored. I got really bored with it, and it's really odd when I look back when I was working at corporate. Every 3 years, I was leaving a job.
You stayed on rotation
And
somewhere else.
exactly, exactly. And so I started my first professional job fresh out of college. I was an application and product support engineer. Loved it.
Can you tell us about like what that is?
Sure. So I was working for a company based in Denmark, believe it or not, with their US headquarters in Decatur, Georgia. And not even city of Decatur, unincorporated near Covington Highway, of all places. And I actually loved it. I was hired on a Wednesday, and on that Friday, I was flying to Europe. All of
Oh,
my customers were overseas. I that Friday I went to France, and I had customers in France, Jamaica, Ireland, Italy, Australia, and Corpus Christi, Texas. That was my only stateside customer. And we had a really niche, unique product. And basically, we monitored sludge for the bauxite industry. And so, an application and product support engineer is I worked really closely with our manufacturing department. We manufactured the sensor right there, indicator, and our customers. We were the only ones in the industry that did that. So our customers were very loyal to us. That was a part of me having the awakening of customer management. When our sensors went down, they went down. And so it was really important to be honed in on their needs and making sure that they had spare parts, that they knew um, how to debug or to, figure out what's going on so they could talk to me. Again, while all my customers overseas, I can't get there quickly. There were times when I had to fly, but even still, if you're waiting 12 hours for me to get there, you're in trouble. And so just understanding, regardless of what my industry is, that started me looking at my work as mission work. I cared about them staying in business. I cared about them being productive. And so it wasn't mission as the traditional word of, nonprofits and what have you. But I do see customer needs as being really important to me. Yeah,
yeah. I like how you're able to actually care about the customer.
I do.
We need a lot more of that going on.
I
So
do.
after you were working there, what did you transition into afterwards?
So yeah, so again, that was my first job, and I was hot shot, and I left BTG, Bonnier Technology Group, which became Zellweger Analytics. They were purchased out by Zellweger, and they relocated to Houston. right? And we were pretty flatline. And so I had really a lot of access to the president. And so I would pop into his office. And so while I was one of the very few that they did ask to relocate to Houston, but again, me being a hot shot 20-something-year-old. And so the president was being relocated and they were taking him out to look for a house. I was looking for a house here in Atlanta/Decatur. And they were saying how my package would help me get relocated to an apartment. And I was like, an apartment? I'm trying to buy a house here. Why will I go backwards? And so I said, no, I'm not going. Isn't that crazy? Looking back at that right now. And I was actually working on my master's at the time. And again, this is about saying yes and being open and just telling your story. You don't know who you're sitting next to. So I was working on my master's in engineering. I'm actually the first Black woman to earn one from Mercer in technical communication and engineering.
Wow.
And I was talking to another student and saying I was looking for work. I wasn't going to stay with BTG anymore. And she said, well, you know, I can refer you to my company. It was Scientific Atlanta. And for her, she was thinking, to be honest with you, because she immediately said, I'll share the referral with you. Of course, she did not. I'm sure it was a Texas thing. I don't know, but she didn't. But if I didn't open my mouth, I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. So then I went from there to being a customer science engineer. That was my title. But I did technical writing and customer support there as well. So a customer support, customer science engineer is what I was labeled there. And that was really interesting because um, dating myself, but that was that was during the analog phase. So we were creating cable technology, Scientific Atlanta, which evolved into, was the platform that most cable companies was using. Anyway, and so I was writing test cases for the cable boxes. And that's before we went digital. So I was actually a part of that process with Y2K. And so we had some customers that were, I'm really dating myself, right? We had some customers that were analog and some were digital. And so that was really exciting, trying to run the two systems at the same time, one product, but two different parallels of who's digital, who's analog, embracing ourselves if the world was going to collapse, at the stroke of midnight for the year 2000. So all of that was really fun. So I lived through that. Yeah. And then
Oh,
I was there for 3 years, got bored, and I definitely got bored there. And from there, I started working independently as an independent consultant, believe it or not. Initially as a website designer. I was going to conquer the world one website at a time. So when the internet came out, it really fed my soul because this box that we have that's called a computer, it was functional 24/7. I was a night owl, so I love the idea that I could do things and find information regardless of it being after 6 o'clock. And to be honest with you, I was such now it's so funny. This is so funny looking back at myself, but I was just such a I was such a whiz at the internet. You could tell me anybody, any company's website or any company name, and I could just figure out their website, not even from like, well, I guess it would be Delta Airlines or Delta.com. I could literally say, okay, that's going to be American Airlines is going to be AA.com. And, it was, I don't know why, but I really miss my calling and being more of a frontier person when it came to the internet because I really understood it and fell in love with it. But I started designing websites for small businesses and having, again, a lot of time on my hands. I was working with, my family had a early childhood school. And so I would donate my time there helping parents, grandparents who were second generation parents. They were now parents of their grandkids, right? And they needed to understand this box as well because their kids were on it. And I started teaching for free computer classes to the community, to a lot of seniors. And because of that, like I said, I had a lot of downtime. And because of that, I started a nonprofit. And that was again saying yes. And that was basically me, my first real venture into being an independent consultant and saying, okay, what is your need? And let's figure out how technology can meet that.
Ooh, I like that. I like how you basically, anyway, you definitely found your calling with, providing support to those who are ready to learn and with
Yeah,
the fact that it's fulfilling that need for you. I want
sure.
to say that. But I do want to touch on when it came down to, the transition
Hmm.
between going analog to digital and then in the
Hmm.
process of you getting bored. That's kind of interesting to me because you're in the middle of the transition, but you got bored.
You know why? It's because I just wasn't being utilized the full day. So what we were working on, 100% interesting. However, again, being a young hotshot and and management, they just move slow, and that drives me nuts. And you know how it is, the meeting that could have been
An
taken
email.
care of in an email, right? And so I'm thinking I have plans for the weekend and you holding me up from traveling. Do I really have to be here right now? Can we have done this in an email? And it was exciting. I remember sitting, oh gosh, and we used to do everything late night. And again, like I said, I was on the internet a lot late at night. And so we would do our tests, a lot of our testing at night because the number of people who are on there watching TV is a lot more minimal, at least, especially then. That's when television would go off. And so I remember I was sitting and we went somewhere, I can't remember, but somewhere out in the sticks to do testing. And there's this engineer and he's sitting there and we couldn't figure out something with a new release. And someone said, well, it's just TV. And the engineer who was on the computer, and we're all huddled around him watching to see if everything's going to blow up. And he turns around, he says, you tell that to the person in the middle of Utah, and that's all they have is their TV. And so again, the product, the service that we were doing, I understood it was really relevant and important. And because that person who only has a TV for their companionship or for their entertainment or their connection to the outside world, but that part excited me, the nuances, the innovation, but I just always working a 9 to 5, I need to be busy the whole time. Otherwise, let me go. So as an independent person, I can work 3 hours. I could work at 3 hours at night. It could work 8 hours. It could be 11 hours. As an entrepreneur, no 2 days are the same, but also you are prepared to dig in whenever it's needed. But you have that freedom to the work, not you aren't tied to a desk as you are when you are having to do that FaceTime, that water cooler stuff. It still drives me nuts.
All
It
right,
drives
so
me nuts.
I do want to ask, like, as an entrepreneur, what is
Mhm.
your, even though no days look the same, like, what does a week in your life
Mhm.
look like in an entrepreneurial sense?
Oh my gosh, a week, that's hard. You know, so I had a week recently where I was on site and we were doing the same training for 2 hours training, rotating out the people for 3 sessions. So 6 hours for the day, twice, 2 days. It was on Tuesday and Wednesday. That never happens. And then the day before, I was on site all day for communication is key. I was told the meeting would be from 9 till 11, and then we'll break and then come back together like at 3, and I was wondering, it was downtown. I was like, well, what am I going to do between 11 and 3? Turns out the meeting was 9 to 5. The speaker was like, oh, well, I could keep going. And the person who was called the meeting was like, okay, keep going. And I'm just like, that's not what we were told, but okay. They brought in lunch and we kept going. Never does that happen. So typically it is a lot of me working by myself, which I love. Um, I'm very much a people person socially. But again, when I'm working in the office, because I have my hands in a lot of different things. I do a lot of advocacy work. I do a lot of volunteerism. And so my mind is always racing about the different things I need to take care of. And so to me, it's not important that I'm sitting there ball and chain and working on what you want me to work on for 8 hours. It is about what's the deadline? When do you want it? What updates do you need on it? I can provide those things, but for 8 hours during the day, I might dabble into this project I'm working on. I might check on the kids. I might work on a social, volunteer project and come back. So that's why I enjoy working independently, because I'm going to take care of what I got to take care of. But I just feel like it's disrespectful to be sitting at your desk doing other things. So I don't like to do that, but I got stuff to do. I have stuff to take care of, not just sit here and work on your stuff for 8 hours.
I like that because I'm typically the same way. I have like a lot of thoughts running through my head,
Yeah.
and I will say when I'm in the office, the only thing I can technically do because I'm here right now is the stuff for here work at this
Right,
location. So it's like the days that I do work from home, it's just like, all right, I have this task. How much time does it take me to complete it?
right.
And if it's not that much time, I can get it out the way and go do what I have to do. So
Exactly.
it's just like being able to schedule your day how you want it, and still make it functional, and everything gets completed at the end of the day. And work. It really
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
is. Oh, okay. So you mentioned how you were teaching senior citizens about,
Hmm.
computer skills, and do you do any more of that now? And do you branch out to help, a broader spectrum of people?
So I still do civic engagement work, but it's not from that particular work. So that was, let me just say this, those ladies were so cute. There were a few gentlemen in there, but for the most part, they were grandmothers. And if I could just tell you a story. So this is how basic we were doing. I was teaching them even just about how to establish an email account, and not just doing Word and how to help their kids with that. But there was one young lady. She said, "Will you please get Usher to stop emailing me?" She had joined an Usher fan club.
Oh,
And she thought Usher himself was emailing her all the time. And she said, "Will you please get him to stop emailing me?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. Let me let me help you with the unsubscribe." And so it was just that basic. And, again, taking yourself, transporting yourself to a time of yesteryear. And so it wasn't so known that Mr. Raymond was not behind the keyboard. But now, so yeah, I do a lot of volunteerism. I'm a Spelman alum, and so I volunteer there. I'm Southeast Regional Coordinator for our National Alumni Association of Spelman College, and so I lend my time and talent to that. We are having a big summit in June, our True Blue Sisters Summit, and so I'm working on various committees with that, our marketing committee, and working on our technology committee. It is in Charlotte. And so that being my region, Southeast, I'm kind of having my hands in on what's going on. I'm not planning, I don't want to sell that. I'm not planning the summit, but I am involved in the planning of it. And I was active with our Atlanta chapter last year. I off-boarded because of my role as Southeast Regional Coordinator, but I was the social justice and advocacy chair for the Atlanta chapter, as well as on our golf committee. It was, I believe, 7 years. We did it for 7 years, and so I was a part of the inaugural committee, and so I did that for the past 7 years. And on that, oh gosh, on the golf committee, it was a little bit of technology, it was a little bit of marketing, volunteer coordinator. So I am still active giver. I work or volunteer also with the Hank Stewart Foundation, and I help with their technology components. So yeah, activism is pretty endearing to me. Yes.
I do want to touch on the time management because I
Sure.
know that's one of the things I do want to know because I'm in a space where it's just like I have a lot of things I have the opportunity to do, but
Right.
the time is not making sense. The math is not mathing with the time. So,
Sure.
how do you allocate the time that you need for the necessary activities and the things that you do want to do?
Okay, so let me say first, my Achilles heel is this little I love this box called a computer, but I get a meeting invite and I hit yes, and I do not do the best of putting it on my calendar. So the calendar is your best friend. And so for me, it is about saying yes to things that I enjoy. So all those different committees I'm involved with when it comes to Spelman, it's because I really enjoy the people. They make it easy to donate my time and talent. It's a lot of work, but I'm doing it with fun people. We laugh a lot. When we're not laughing or I'm not laughing and I'm not enjoying it, then it feels like real work. And so I love technology. I love volunteerism. Um, so to me, it is just about having a good time and just happen to be doing good work. I'm all about having a good time and enjoying life and enjoying the spaces I'm in. That's another reason why I'm very particular about the projects I take on as an independent worker because um, yes, I do have bills to take care of, but I also am very particular about who I say yes to because all money isn't good money. And if you're stressing me out as a client, then the number of hours and time I'm dedicating to getting something done diminishes my bottom line. So I say yes to a lot, but when it comes to time management, it's just about what can I do to incorporate and make it easy for me to do. So saying yes to projects that I enjoy, it may take up a lot of my time, but again, I'm working and playing at the same time.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot easier. So it's recreation and it's also work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Because I love that too. Because I feed off of other people's energies, and like
exactly.
initially, I'll always bring a positive energy, and as long
Yeah,
as you bring it, we'll be positive together. And sometimes,
cool.
it's just
Cool. When this no longer feels fun, Renee's out. I'm deuces.
yeah, I'm
Hi,
the
I'm deuces.
same.
So yeah,
Let's see.
exactly.
I want to get into a couple of questions that Byron has about like the launch room agency. Like, will you want to talk
Sure.
about your business a little bit more and like how you guys kind of structure it and just how do you get the contract jobs or how do
Yeah.
you interact with people and support them?
Yes, so the Lunchroom Agency is owned by me, and it's crazy to hear you even say it, talk about it. That's the thing about social media and LinkedIn and those different platforms is that people can do investigative work on you and you don't know it because I never talk about it. I never talk about it. And so it does exist and is out there, but all of my contract work is through word of mouth. I have not really solicited myself for a project in a long time, and that's real talk. The one I'm working on now, I was called on a Saturday and they said, "Hey, can you start on Monday?" And that is actually a an opportunity I was talking to them about probably 4 years ago, and it didn't work out. Timing wasn't right, and for whatever reason, they still need me, and so they say, "Hey, you know." can you get started? I was like, okay. And this one takes up more of my time. That was the one I was saying we were doing client training. And I'm trying to figure it out with that one because because it's taking up more of my time, and I actually have a contract with them already. So this is a second project, and we're branching out to a second project, and they actually want me to go full time. And so that's kind of making me itch, and they know it. So if they see this, they aren't going to hear anything that they don't know about. But again, it's about your word of mouth and reputation. So the launch room is just what I talked about already. Everything I'm doing for me as a solopreneur, it is hard for me to know when I'm presenting myself as a launch room agency and when I'm presenting myself as Renee Days or Renee Days Wilson or Renee Wilson, whichever iteration I'm presenting at the time. But so yeah, so I'm always Renee Wilson, but am I working as the launch room agency and so it depends on how they knew me. And that determines if they're going to write the check to the launch room agency or if they're going to write it to me. But being a solopreneur, it pretty much all goes, works the same way when it comes down to Uncle Sam. Um, Also, so what we do is, again, I listen to my customers, and there's often through conversations is not unusual that is in a social setting. And we're talking, they're saying, hey, I'm thinking about this. And I say, hey, well, have you tried that? Or no, you don't want to do a webinar. You want to do a learning management system. So it's housed, and they say, oh, you sound like you really know what you're talking about. Maybe we should talk some more. And that's literally how I get all of my work. So hearing you say, the website and everything was like, oh yeah, there is a website out there. I'm very much, and it's very, so I do almost am a hypocrite because your presence is my, um, how should I put it? Your social media presence, your digital footprint is my biggest priority. I don't worry about mine. So I'm like a hairdresser who has bad hair. Don't look at how I'm presenting myself. Don't worry about that. Okay.
Look at the work that I've done. That's really
Exactly. For me, how I carry myself, I'm very big on IRL in real life. But I do understand that as I'm your biggest cheerleader. I cheered in uh, elementary through all the way up through high school, even college. I was a cheerleader for Morehouse at Spelman. And so that is just a part of my DNA, my footprint. I'm always rah-rahing on the player, whoever's out there in the game. And like, don't worry about me, I'm good. You succeeding makes me happy. So I don't spend a lot of time developing my digital footprint because what I'm doing now is working. But I understand I'm trying to get you to the next level. And so I understand that as you talk to the masses, you need that particular presence. Um, Maybe if my calling was, okay, I'm ready to go to the next level and go higher, maybe I'll feel more compelled. But social media for me really is more so it's fun for fun and giggles. It's as personal. It's very personal. I use it for personal posting. I don't use it for business, rarely. Recently, over the last year, about 2 years ago, I was working on a project and I did more postings of those activities only because, again, that topic was very important to the masses. It was in regards to something I felt like a lot of the people that were my friends or my contacts on my social media could benefit from. So again, letting you in on what I'm working on was important, not to promote me, but to help you. I just felt like that product, that service was really important. And a lot of people could benefit from it. And so I did do, and it wasn't from the standpoint of, hey, look what Renee is heading up and doing. It was like, hey, you can go over there and get this free service. It's pretty cool. Check it out. Yeah.
Okay. So you're sharing for the benefit of others and all of that,
Yeah.
because that still speaks true to what you already do.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, I do want to take it back a bit
Hmm.
and let's talk about your school
Mm.
journey and the
Hmm.
experience that you went through with. I know you mentioned Spelman and
Right.
you mentioned Mercer. I wanna talk about your
Sure,
degrees that you
sure.
got because it's not very often I see someone with a double bachelor. So I do want to talk about it.
Sure, yes. My again saying yes and being open to others. I'm really big on a bought lesson is what is it? What's it? A bought lesson is better than a earned one. I just botched that, but essentially, I do believe in listening to those who have forged the way. I don't feel like I have to be the one to knock down the door. If you say, if I trust your wisdom, I listen to you a lot. So that particular person I'm referring to is my mother. So I wanted to be an attorney.
Oh, really?
And she said, nah, you need to be an engineer. You're good at math. You don't like to write. I was just like, okay, what is an engineer? Here I am dating myself again
Mhm.
because I didn't know what an engineer was. So I went to this thing called an encyclopedia. We had a bookshelf, a full set of the Britannica encyclopedias. I went to the E's and I opened it up and it had mechanical engineer. And I was like, no, I don't think I like that. And the one that spoke to me was computer engineer. I was like, oh, okay, well, let me do that. No, I'm sorry, electrical.
Ooh.
Electrical is what spoke to me because you worked on computers. So computer engineers wasn't a title then. I'm really sounding like an old person. Anyway, so electrical, in the description for electrical engineers, they said that they worked on computers. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. And so that's how I decided to become to study computer engineering. I applied to Spelman, got in, and I was like, all right, I'm done. So Spelman was the only school I applied to. They had the dual degree program. I said, okay, cool, I'll do Spelman and then go on to Georgia Tech and get an electrical engineer. So natural science at Spelman and Georgia Tech electrical engineering. And I did that. I've worked for a few years and then again, bored and said, I guess I'll go get a master's. I guess it's time. And so I went on and got my master's in engineering, technical communication engineering from Mercer. And all of this is in Atlanta. So I have a strong affinity for Atlanta. I think Atlanta has everything that I need. And since we're busting out the seams, apparently it has everything others need as well. So don't talk about me for never leaving. But I also, because of that global early work, I was always traveling. So I like to think that I'm pretty well exposed, not just through work, but also my family. So I did a lot of traveling internationally for pleasure as I grew up. So I like to think of myself being pretty open to other cultures and what have you. Also, and then I always take classes. I did it after getting my master's. I took a lot of certification. I was designing websites, but I went on and got a certification in website design from Georgia Tech afterwards. I was already doing digital marketing, working for Delta Airlines, and I went on and went to, what is that place? Oh gosh, is that what is that place called? General Assembly. I went on and got a certificate in digital marketing from General Assembly. I just like being that arena of education. I like being the arena of people who are thinking and innovating and ideas. So I'm getting bored again, and I'm actually thinking about going back and getting my PhD in engineering. And so I'm this close to figuring out where. And I did identify a school, but it's inside of their computer science department. And I don't want it from a computer science department. I want it from an engineering department, Department of Engineering, PhD. So it's either going to, there's really, actually, it's going to be a doctorate in engineering, not a PhD. So I've identified a couple of schools that fit that requirement. And so I'm thinking about it, but only because I'm getting a little bored. And also, just the conversations. So let me say this, in my work, working closely with Spelman, and I'm seeing the young ladies matriculate, it excites me, but I also want them to understand what they're going into. And then as I'm talking to them about what they're going into, because I say yes to a lot of things and opportunities, I don't really realize what arena I'm in. I never thought about the fact that the numbers, a percentage. I know we're not everywhere, Black women engineers. I know that we're rare, but I didn't realize how rare we were until I started talking to the young ladies. And, now data is everything, right? And so it's
Yeah.
like, okay, let me tell you how rare you are. And it's like, whoa, 16%. Like, and that is 16% of minorities, of Blacks. Engineers are only 16%. Black women and who are earning their bachelor's, just bachelor's in engineering, is only 1%.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I looked that up for in preparation for this. But yeah, so when you're saying that, it's like, wow, we're just unicorns. And there's some other things I want to say, but I'm gonna keep it classy for you. But we're just so unique, and I just love that. And one of the things that fuel Renee is you tell her you can't do something, and then you just may as well just sit back and watch me do it. And so knowing that we're in places and spaces that we're just not expected to be excites me. But it's also about helping them understand getting there. Again, I told you, I just looked at an encyclopedia and was like, okay, I'll become an electrical engineer. And that happened. And so because it happened, I won't say seamlessly, but because I did the thing, you can easily undermine how unique that is, right? And so when I'm talking to the young ladies and telling them that, I want them to understand, yeah, getting it is one thing, but sustaining it is another.
Hey listeners, my name is Byron and I will be featured as co-host on the Be Insightful in Technology podcast. Be sure to tune in to last week's episode and catch up on Renee's interview. And again, thanks for tuning in to gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be insightful in technology.